The massive screens in the Watcher's control center lit up with urgent warnings. Something large had just entered their space, moving with purpose and power. The ancient aliens gathered around their monitoring stations, their dark eyes wide with concern as they tracked the unknown vessel's path. "It's unlike anything in our database," one of the observers noted, his long fingers moving across the glowing controls. The ship was sleek and dark, bearing markings they had never seen before, HMS Thunder. The Watchers had guarded this sector of space for 10,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, had guided countless species through their first steps into the stars. But this vessel was different. It moved like a predator, its engines barely registering on their sensors despite its impressive speed. Following protocol, they sent out the standard greeting message in all known frequencies. Silence was the only response. The vessel continued its steady advance into their territory, its hull seeming to absorb their scans rather than reflect them. What the Watchers couldn't know, was the reason for the Thunder's presence. 3 months earlier, a group of human colonists had vanished in this sector. Their distress signal had lasted only seconds, but it was enough. Humanity had spent too long being ignored by the older races, too long being treated as children who needed guidance and supervision. Captain James stood on the Thunder's bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic displays. The ship had been built in secret, deep within the asteroid belt, incorporating technology that humanity wasn't supposed to have for centuries. Its very existence was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. "Status report," James called out, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each trained for years for this very mission. "Their scans are primitive, Captain," Miller reported from the tactical station. "They're trying to get a read on us with basic EM spectrum analysis. Our hull coding is rendering it useless." James nodded, remembering the briefing about the Watchers. They were ancient, yes, but they had grown complacent. They hadn't faced a real challenge in millennia, and their technology had stagnated. Meanwhile, humanity had spent its entire history fighting, adapting, and overcoming impossible odds. The Thunder's real mission was classified beyond top secret. The disappearing colonists were no accident. They were bait. Intelligence had discovered that someone was targeting human ships in this sector, but all attempts to investigate through official channels had been blocked. The Watchers had insisted on handling it themselves, claiming sovereign authority over the region. Another message from the Watchers. "Sir," Communications Officer Wilson announced. "They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our purpose." James allowed himself a small smile. "Maintain radio silence. Let them wonder." The Thunder's sensors were far more advanced than the Watchers suspected, already mapping every asteroid field and spatial anomaly they could use to their advantage. The ship's quantum computers were processing decades of surveillance data, building a complete picture of the sector's traffic patterns. In the Watchers' control center, the tension was rising. The vessel had now passed 3 major warning beacons without slowing. Its course suggested it was heading toward the outer rim, where several mining operations were located, operations that officially didn't exist. "We should destroy it now," one of the younger Watchers suggested, his voice trembling, "before it gets too deep into our territory." The elder raised a hand for silence. "We are observers, not executioners. Let us watch and learn. These humans, they are young, but there is something different about them. They do not move like a species that is lost or confused." The Thunder continued its advance, its hull as black as the space around it. Inside, Captain James studied the latest sensor data with growing certainty. The patterns were there, hidden in the background radiation and subtle gravitational disturbances. Someone was running a massive operation out here, using the Watchers' authority as a shield. "Plot a course for Grid Sector 7, he ordered. "Let's see what our friends are hiding out there." The mighty warship adjusted its course slightly, its powerful engines barely whispering. In its wake, it left a group of increasingly worried Watchers and a growing realization among the ancient species. Humanity was done playing by their rules. The HMS Thunder's sensors picked up something unusual floating in the darkness of space. At first, it looked like just another piece of space debris, but as they got closer, the ship's advanced scanning systems revealed its true nature. "Captain, we found something," Miller called out from his station. "It's a ship, but it's dead in space. No power readings, no life signs." Captain James walked over to the main display, studying the ghostly image of the derelict vessel. It was clearly of alien design, its hull covered in strange markings that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "How long has it been here?" "Based on dust accumulation and radiation decay, about 3 months," Engineer Thompson replied, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Right around the time our colonists disappeared." The Thunder slowed its approach, coming alongside the abandoned ship like a predator studying wounded prey. James ordered a full scan, and the results made his jaw tighten. The vessel's hull showed signs of weapons fire, but not from any known alien weapon. These were marks left by human mining charges. "Prepare a boarding team," James ordered. "Full combat gear. I want to know what happened here." Inside the Watcher's control center, the alien observers watched with growing unease as the human warship stopped near the wreck. They knew what the humans would find there, and it worried them deeply. "They weren't supposed to find this," one of the younger Watchers whispered. "The cleanup crews should have removed it months ago." The elder remained silent, watching the screens with ancient, tired eyes. Too many secrets had been kept for too long. Back on the Thunder, the boarding team moved through the derelict ship's dark corridors. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing signs of violence. Dr. Reed knelt beside a dry, dark stain on the floor, her scanner humming softly. "Human blood," she reported through the comm. "They were here." The team pressed deeper into the ship, finding more evidence with each step. Empty food containers with Earth writing, torn pieces of clothing from human colonial uniforms, and something else. Data crystals scattered across what appeared to be a command center. "Thompson, can you read these?" James asked over the comm. "Already working on it, Captain," she replied from her station back on the Thunder. The engineer had prepared for this, having studied stolen alien technology for years. "They're damaged, but I'm getting something. Coordinates, communication logs, and, oh," her voice trailed off, and James could hear the shock in her silence. "What is it?" "Sir, these pirates, they were working with someone inside the Watchers organization. High-level access codes, security protocols, patrol schedules. They had everything they needed to operate freely in this sector." The revelation hung in the air like a physical thing. James looked out through the derelict's broken viewport into the endless darkness of space. They had suspected corruption, but this was worse than they'd imagined. "Pack everything up," he ordered. "Every piece of evidence, every scrap of data. We're taking it all." As the boarding team worked, the Watchers were becoming increasingly agitated. Their sensors might be unable to penetrate the Thunder's hull, but they could track the movement of the boarding team. They knew what was being discovered. "We must stop them," one of the senior Watchers insisted. "If they learn the truth." "The truth has been hidden long enough," the elder interrupted. "Perhaps it is time for change." The Thunder's crew worked quickly, efficiently, gathering everything they could find. When they returned to their ship, James studied the recovered data himself. The coordinates led to a supposedly abandoned mining station deep in Watcher space, exactly where their initial intelligence had suggested. "Plot a course," he ordered. "Full stealth mode." The mighty warship's engines hummed to life, barely a whisper in the vacuum of space. As they moved away from the derelict, James looked at the strange markings they'd found on the data crystals. They matched symbols worn by high-ranking members of the Watchers Council. The pieces were coming together, forming a picture that would shake the foundations of power in this sector of space. The Thunder moved forward, carrying its crew toward a truth that some had killed to keep hidden. The mining station hung in space like a dark spider's web, its long support struts stretching out into the blackness. The HMS Thunder approached slowly, its advanced sensors mapping every detail of the supposedly abandoned facility. But it wasn't abandoned at all. "I'm picking up at least 30 ships docked at various points," Miller reported from his tactical station. "Most of them are small, probably pirate vessels. But there's something bigger hidden behind the main structure." Captain James studied the holographic display, noting the movement patterns around the station. "Life signs. Hundreds," Miller replied, "and at least 50 of them are human." The crew of the Thunder had found their missing colonists, but getting them out wouldn't be easy. The station's defenses were more extensive than any abandoned facility should have, and now they knew why. This wasn't just a pirate hideout. It was a secret base operating under the protection of corrupt Watcher officials. In the Watcher's control center, alarms were blaring. The human warship had been tracked to a sector that officially didn't exist on any maps. The Elder watched the screens with growing concern as younger Watchers rushed around him in panic. "Send the warning message," one of the senior Watchers demanded. "Tell them they've entered a restricted zone. They must turn back immediately." The Elder shook his head slowly. "They already know what this place is. Warning them now will only confirm their suspicions." Back on the Thunder, a message flashed across the communication screen. The warning was clear: leave immediately or face destruction. Captain James allowed himself a small smile. "Power up the main weapons," he ordered, "but keep them in passive mode. Let's see who comes to chase us away." They didn't have to wait long. 3 ships detached from the station's shadows, moving to intercept the Thunder. They were pirate vessels, but their hull markings told a different story. These ships had been modified with Watcher technology. "They're charging weapons," Miller announced calmly. James nodded. "Now we show them what we can really do. Activate the shield grid. Power up the pulse cannons, but target their engines only. We need them alive to answer questions." The Thunder's hull began to glow with a faint blue light as its advanced shield system came online. The pirates fired first, their enhanced weapons blazing across space. Their shots hit the Thunder's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed by technology that humanity wasn't supposed to have for centuries. "Return fire," James ordered. "Let's make this quick." The Thunder's pulse cannon spoke, sending precise bolts of energy that sliced through the pirate ship's engines. One by one, the vessels went dark, drifting helplessly in space. The entire battle had taken less than 30 seconds. In the Watcher's control center, silence fell as they watched the impossible scene unfold on their monitors. The human ship had just disabled 3 enhanced vessels without taking any damage. The Elder felt a mix of fear and strange satisfaction. Perhaps this was exactly what their society needed, a shock to wake them from their long complacency. "Send in the defense fleet," someone suggested weakly. "No," the Elder commanded. "Watch and learn. These humans, they are showing us something important." The Thunder moved closer to the station, its sensors now focused on mapping the internal layout. Engineer Thompson worked at her station, analyzing the data they'd gathered from the disabled ships. "Captain," she called out, "I found something. The station's power grid has a weakness. If we hit it in the right spot, we can shut down their defenses without harming any of the prisoners." James studied the information on his display. The station's design was complex, mixing different alien technologies with crude pirate modifications. But Thompson was right. There was a flaw they could exploit. "Prepare a strike team," he ordered. "We're going in to get our people." As the Thunder's crew prepared for their assault, more ships began launching from the station. But these weren't pirate vessels. They were official Watcher patrol ships. The corrupt officials were calling in their legitimate forces, hoping to hide their crimes behind a wall of official authority. The real battle was about to begin, and both sides knew it would change everything. The Thunder hung in space, its weapons ready, its crew prepared. They had come too far to turn back now. The captured pirate ships drifted silently in space as the Thunder's crew downloaded their data cores. Each new piece of information revealed a darker picture of corruption and greed that went far beyond simple piracy. Engineer Thompson worked quickly at her station, her eyes widening as she decoded more files. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out, her voice tight with urgency. "These aren't just random attacks. They've been targeting specific human colonies for years." Captain James moved to her station, studying the decoded files. The information showed a complex web of connections leading straight to the highest levels of the Watchers' Council. Maps marked with future raid targets, lists of colonies selected for their resources, and most disturbing of all, prices for human workers. "They're not just taking our people as slaves," Dr. Reed said quietly, looking over their shoulders. "They're studying us, learning how we adapt so quickly to different environments. The pirates are just the visible part. This is a full research operation." On the main screen, more Watcher patrol ships appeared, taking up defensive positions around the mining station. But something was odd about their formation. Miller noticed it first from his tactical station. "Sir, those ships, they're not actually blocking our approach. They're giving us a clear path to the station's west docking port." James studied the pattern and smiled slightly. "Not all of the Watchers are corrupt. Someone's trying to help us." A new message appeared on their communication screen. Unlike the official warnings they'd received before, this one was encoded differently. Thompson quickly decoded it, revealing a message from a group calling themselves the Truth Seekers, Watchers who had discovered the corruption in their own ranks and wanted it exposed. "The message includes detailed security codes and patrol schedules," Thompson reported. "They want to help us free the prisoners, but they're warning us about something bigger. The station isn't just a prison. It's a research facility. They're using our people to try to understand how humans advance so quickly." In the Watchers' main control center, chaos was spreading. The Elder watched as different factions argued among themselves. Some wanted to destroy the human ship immediately. Others insisted on maintaining their role as observers, and a growing number were openly questioning their society's actions. "We swore to guide younger species, not exploit them," one of the older Watchers said firmly. "What we have done here goes against everything we stand for. The humans advance too quickly." Another shouted back, "Look at that ship. They've achieved in decades what took us centuries. They're dangerous." The Elder finally spoke, his voice cutting through the argument. "Perhaps that is exactly why we should help them, not fear them. They show us what we have forgotten: how to grow, how to change, how to improve." Back on the Thunder, James made his decision. They had enough evidence now to expose the entire operation, but that wouldn't be enough. They needed to free the prisoners and make sure this couldn't happen again. "Send a message to the Truth Seekers," he ordered. "Tell them we're going in, and we'll need their help to evacuate the prisoners." Dr. Reed looked up from her medical station. "The scans show many of the prisoners are in bad condition. We'll need time to treat them." "Time we don't have," Miller added, watching more ships appear on his tactical display. "The corrupt officials are calling in reinforcements. We have maybe 2 hours before we're completely surrounded." James studied the station's schematics one more time. The Truth Seekers had marked several key points: power generators, security stations, and most importantly, the research labs where the worst experiments were conducted. "We're not just going to free the prisoners," he announced to his crew. "We're going to download every piece of data from their labs. The whole galaxy needs to see what's been happening here." The crew of the Thunder prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They had trained for years, preparing for situations just like this, but the stakes had never been higher. It wasn't just about saving their people anymore. It was about exposing a truth that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Outside, the station's lights flickered as the Truth Seekers began their part of the plan, secretly disabling security systems one by one. The final battle was about to begin, and both sides knew there was no turning back. The corrupt Watchers made their move first. 20 warships appeared from behind the mining station's massive structures, their weapons already charged. On the Thunder's bridge, Miller watched them approach with calm focus. "They're using old attack patterns," he reported. "Standard Watcher fleet formation, just like in the historical records." Captain James nodded. The Watchers hadn't fought a real battle in centuries. They relied on their reputation and ancient tactics, never adapting or improving. It was exactly what he had counted on. "Begin defensive pattern Alpha," he ordered. "Show them what we can do." The Thunder moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. As the Watcher vessels opened fire, it twisted between their energy beams like a dancer. Not a single shot connected. The Thunder's hull flickered with blue light, its shield grid absorbing the few shots that came close. "They're trying to surround us," Thompson called from her station. "But their engines can't match our speed." In the Watcher's control center, the Elder and his allies watched in amazement. The human ship moved in ways their ancient tactical computers couldn't predict. It was proving everything they had feared and hoped for about human ingenuity. "Impossible," one of the corrupt officials whispered. "Their technology shouldn't be this advanced. We've controlled their development, restricted their access to advanced sciences." The Elder smiled slightly. "You cannot control innovation. You cannot stop curiosity. The humans have done what we forgot how to do. They've grown beyond their limitations." The battle intensified as the Thunder began to fight back. Its pulse cannons fired with perfect precision, disabling enemy ships without destroying them. Each shot hit exactly where intended, proving that the humans could have easily destroyed their opponents, but chose not to. 6 enemy ships disabled," Miller reported. "Their formation is breaking apart." The remaining Watcher ships started to show panic in their movements. They had never faced an opponent who could match their technology, let alone surpass it. Their carefully planned attack fell into chaos. Inside the mining station, the Truth Seekers made their move. Lights began failing across entire sections as they sabotaged power systems. Security doors sealed randomly, trapping guards and separating them from their posts. Years of secret planning were finally paying off. "We're receiving a new transmission," Thompson announced on the Thunder's bridge. "The Truth Seekers say they've secured the prisoner sections. They're ready for evacuation." But the corrupt Watchers had one last card to play. A massive ship emerged from behind the station's main bulk, larger than anything they had shown before. Its hull was covered in weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. "That's their real battleship," Miller said, his voice tense for the first time. "The one they use to enforce their will on younger species." James studied the massive vessel on his screens. It was impressive, designed to inspire fear in anyone who saw it. But he saw something else too: age. The ship was old, its design unchanged for thousands of years. "Target their main power conduits," he ordered. Those old ships always had the same weakness. They put too much power through a single system. The Thunder's advanced targeting computers locked onto exactly the right spot. Their main weapon, hidden until now, powered up. A beam of concentrated energy, based on humanity's latest discoveries in physics, shot out from the Thunder's bow. The massive Watcher battleship's shields flared brilliantly as they tried to stop the attack. But the Thunder's beam was using principles the ancient shields had never been designed to handle. The energy cut through their defenses like they weren't even there. With a series of spectacular explosions, the mighty battleship's power grid overloaded. Its weapons went dark, and its engines died. The symbol of Watcher authority and power now drifted helplessly in space. In the control center, the corrupt officials watched in horror as their ultimate weapon was defeated in seconds. The Elder stepped forward, his voice carrying new authority. "The humans have won fairly," he announced. "And now we will listen to what they have to say." The Thunder moved toward the mining station's docking ports, ready to begin the evacuation. They had won the battle, but Captain James knew the real challenge was still ahead, making sure this victory led to real change. The Thunder docked with the mining station with a gentle thud. Captain James led the rescue team himself, their boots hitting the station's metal floor with determined steps. The truth seekers had done their job well. Most of the security systems were offline, and the few guards who remained had surrendered quickly. "Medical team with me," James ordered as they moved through the dimly lit corridors. "Engineering team, secure their data centers. We need every piece of evidence." Dr. Reed's medical scanners led them straight to the prisoner areas. The sight that greeted them made even the hardened crew members pause. Hundreds of humans were crowded into cells meant for half their number, many looking thin and tired from months of forced labor. "It's really them," one of the prisoners whispered as the rescue team began breaking open the cell doors. "Earth really came for us." The medical team worked quickly, checking each prisoner and marking the most serious cases for immediate transport. Dr. Reed moved from person to person, her face growing darker with each examination. They'd been experimenting with different gravity levels, different atmospheres, she reported to James. Testing human adaptability. Some of these people have been worked nearly to death. In another part of the station, Thompson led the engineering team through the research labs. Their mission was just as important, gathering proof of what had happened here. "Download everything," she ordered her team. "Every file, every test result, every communication log. The whole galaxy needs to see this." The truth seekers helped guide them through the station's complex layout. These watchers had risked everything to help expose the corruption in their own society, and now they worked side by side with humans to make things right. "There are more prisoners in the lower levels," one of the truth seekers told James. "The ones they were using for their most serious experiments. We need to hurry. The backup life support won't last much longer." The rescue teams pushed deeper into the station, fighting against time. The station's damaged systems were failing one by one, and the air was getting thinner in some sections. But the Thunder's crew refused to leave anyone behind. Back on the Thunder's bridge, Miller watched the space around them carefully. The disabled watcher ships still drifted nearby, their crews watching helplessly as their secrets were exposed. But there was something else catching his attention. "Captain," he called over the comm, "long-range sensors are picking up more ships heading this way. Lots of them." James acknowledged the warning as his team broke into another cell block. "How long do we have?" 2 hours at most. These ones are coming in fast. Probably their newest ships." The rescue operation sped up. The Thunder's crew had trained for situations like this, but the scale of what they found in the station tested all their skills. Some prisoners could barely walk after months in high-gravity chambers. Others had been kept in low-oxygen environments, their bodies weak and struggling. The truth seekers proved invaluable, their knowledge of the station helping the rescue teams find the quickest routes between sections. They also helped calm the prisoners who had grown fearful of all aliens, showing them that not all watchers had supported these crimes. "Engineering team reports all data secured." Thompson's voice came over the comm. "We've got everything. Research logs, communication records, even personal messages between the corrupt officials planning their operations." The station groaned around them as more systems failed. Emergency lights flashed in several corridors, warning of imminent power failures. They were running out of time. "Last group of prisoners located," Dr. Reed reported from the lower levels. "But we've got a problem. The lift systems are failing. We'll have to carry some of them out." James organized his team quickly, sending the strongest crew members to help. They weren't leaving anyone behind, no matter how difficult the rescue became. The Thunder's crew worked tirelessly, passing injured prisoners hand-to-hand up emergency ladders when the lifts finally died. Time was running out, and the incoming watcher ships were getting closer. But as James watched his crew work, carrying the weakest prisoners to safety, he knew they would succeed. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability, but their unwavering determination to help their own. 3 days after the rescue mission, the Thunder floated in space near the edge of Watcher territory. Around it gathered the largest fleet of Watcher ships ever assembled. But this time, they weren't there to fight. They had come to witness something unprecedented, a meeting that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Thunder's main conference room had been prepared for the occasion. Captain James stood at one end, with Dr. Reed and Engineer Thompson beside him. Their evidence was ready. Hours of video recordings, thousands of documents, and testimony from the rescued prisoners. The Elder led the Watcher delegation, now speaking with the full authority of their council. The corrupt officials had been arrested, their network of illegal operations shut down. But more importantly, the Watchers had been forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about themselves. "We have reviewed all the evidence," the Elder began, his voice carrying genuine regret. "What was done to your people was not just criminal. It was a betrayal of everything the Watchers were meant to stand for." James nodded, but stayed focused on their main goal. "The question is, what happens now?" The Elder gestured, and one of his assistants activated a holographic display. It showed a new map of the galaxy, with borders redrawn. "We propose a new treaty. Human ships will have free passage through all Watcher space. Your colonies will be protected by our patrols, not restricted by them." "And the technology ban?" Thompson asked, thinking of all the innovations they'd been forced to hide. "Lifted," the Elder replied simply. "Your ship, the Thunder, has proven something we had forgotten. True advancement comes from innovation, not just age and tradition." Dr. Reed stepped forward, presenting her medical findings. "And what about the victims? Some of them will need years of treatment to recover from what was done to them." The Elder's expression showed genuine sorrow. "We will provide everything needed for their recovery. Our best medical technology, our most advanced healing facilities, all will be available to them." But there was something else, something that needed to be said. James could see it in the Elder's posture. "There's more, isn't there?" he asked quietly. The Elder nodded slowly. "We have grown old and set in our ways. For 10,000 years, we thought our role was to guide younger species, to control their development. We were wrong. Perhaps now it is time for us to learn from you." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The Watchers, one of the oldest species in the galaxy, were admitting they had something to learn from humanity. "Your people adapt so quickly," the Elder continued. "You face challenges and overcome them. You see problems and find new ways to solve them. This is what we have lost over the millennia." The truth seekers, standing proudly among their people now, nodded in agreement. Their brave actions had helped expose the corruption, and now they would help lead their society in a new direction. News of the treaty spread quickly through the galaxy. Other alien species watched in amazement as the mighty Watchers acknowledged humanity as equals. The Thunder's mission had changed everything. On the ship's bridge, James watched the Watcher fleet begin to disperse. The rescued colonists were safely on their way home, and the evidence they'd gathered would ensure nothing like this could happen again. "Message from Earth Command," Miller reported from his station. "They're calling this a historic moment. They want us to—" He paused, smiling slightly, "give a speech about peaceful cooperation between species." James shook his head, smiling too. "Tell them the speech has already been given. Not with words, but with actions. We showed the galaxy that humanity won't abandon its people, won't back down from a fight, but also won't seek revenge when justice is done." The Thunder's engines powered up, ready to take them home. Behind them, the Watcher ships moved into a new formation, not as guards or overseers, but as escorts, showing respect to a species that had earned it. As they set course for Earth, James thought about everything that had happened. They had come looking for missing colonists and found something much bigger, a chance to change the galaxy for the better. The Thunder had lived up to its name, shaking the foundations of power that had stood for millennia. But most importantly, they had shown everyone watching that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their unwavering spirit, their determination to help each other, and their ability to forgive even those who had wronged them. Once justice was served,